Yeah, we're gonna take a stab at these barrels here because that's oftentimes, where people find the most trouble on that, okay? Now, there's this principle that I like to push to most of my students, and it's basically what I call additive and subtractive modeling, okay? So you've been through Art 1 and Art 2. Okay, thank you, Matthew. Um, Art 1 and Art 2, you did maquettes, okay? And those maquettes were sculpting. So you most likely picked up this technique with sculpting where you add things to it and then you take things away. That's additive and subtractive, okay? So that's kind of a technique and a principle you want to take with you here to modeling. Um, and we can do that. It's basically a combination of shapes here to make a larger shape. Okay, no problem, Anthony. So right now we have this barrel up here, okay? Whoops. I just canceled that out. Where'd you go? There we go. Okay, so we have this barrel up here, and it cuts off on the side. So we can kind of do something like that there, where we delete some edges, make sure that you're rocking it from the same sides there. Let's delete a couple of these guys too, and just make this thing flat, because that's pretty much what we're working with. And we'll flatten this out too. We'll scale these guys out so we're getting that flatness on the sides. Okay. Let's not worry about this guy right now because he's making some softening edges that I don't like. I mean, what you can do too, if this is not perfectly flat, I would recommend just grabbing the face and scaling it flat. So that way you have that perfect flatness there. And now we know that face is going to be perfectly flat. Okay, and these gridded slots here are triangular in shape, okay? And they actually go towards the front of the gun to allow the texture to grip, I believe. So we're going to let's just do a cube. Cube will get the job done. And if I'm doing anything too fast for you, let me know. Or if I'm doing something that you don't know how I'm doing it, also let me know. Okay, so the front of the gun is flat and the back of the gun is curved. So I'm basically going to, or it's angled, I'm going to delete this edge. And I'm basically making the shape of the hole like this. Let's flip this inside out now. Why are you here? Go over there. I'm gonna reverse my faces, and there's my hole. All right, so we can line this thing up the way that it's supposed to be. Now this is definitely, there's multiple approaches we can do with this thing, okay? There is Booleans that we can do, all right? That is going to leave some messy topology. Or we can just connect this thing together with a real geometry. That's the other solution. Now, I would say, if you wanted to, we could do floating geometry, which you'll learn about with the 1.4 lecture. Okay, there's floating geometry. So that's there, but since this thing, it depends on whether, if you have messy topology, it depends on whether or not you're going to use that topology for the game res, okay? And, I want to shoot this out to you too, that, occasionally, if you're exporting things from Maya and you don't have your model triangulated the right way, the Substance Painter may have another triangulation algorithm that it uses, and your model may not triangulate the same way that you want it to, okay? But generally speaking, the high res is not as important as having a, cleanliness, but the game res does, okay? So that's what I'm gonna kind of shoot to you right now. Now this thing is also slanted, so let's work with that slant right now. Make sure we got this thing lined up the way that we want it to, okay? We can do this both ways though. You heard. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm not quite certain where exactly I want to go. And I run through like Booleans. I run through like the perfect technique to get good Booleans, okay? So I'll make that suggestion to you. Now here's what I'm gonna try to do though, okay? Right now, I have like a starting point to my cut and an ending point to my cut that I want to line up so that I can make this geometry work for me. Okay, I added this edge in here, but I held shift so that it rounded out with the rest of the topology, but now it's not lining up to where I want it to connect. So I'm going to grab this edge and use the slide edge tool now. Or actually, you know what? This is gonna even be better. Just grab another edge loop. Okay, that one works better. I like that one a little bit more, and I can delete this edge loop now. The slide edge loop will slide it around the edge and try to keep that curvature there, but it's not foolproof. There is a little bit of deviance to that. Okay, but I think this is where I want this to be. I can push my edges in to kind of line that up a little bit more. It's right here. Yeah, if you hold the right click, you can see slide edge tool. Yeah, that's a really nice one, especially if you got some bevels that are bevels or holding edges that are being a little funky, and you need to just kind of change the influence of them by where they're positioned. Slide edge tool is good for just kind of smoothing that out and evening it out. Okay, so I have my topology where I want it to be. I'm going to grab that geometry and duplicate it. And I just want to do this once right now because I want to set the connection between these two, okay? Actually, no. I just want to delete this one. Let's cut this guy up here first, okay? So right now, I'm going to do a slice. Let's see if I can line this thing up. No, I can't do it that way. I'm going to slice this thing off. Okay, this is probably a little bit faster than Boolean and may give you cleaner results. So I'm just going to use the multi-cut tool. There's Anthony. Just going to use the multi-cut tool here, and I'm just going to drag this thing across like this. And we made that little ninja cut there, okay? This face, or this edge, let's pull you up just a little bit so we're off the surface. There, so now I can get rid of these guys. All right. There, now I have that shape the way that I want it to go. Let's do that shift duplicate now. Move it over a space. Now I'm gonna combine those shapes together here. I'm gonna try to save myself some work on this. Now, if your selection between two shapes is the same amount of geometry, you can do a bridge and it'll snap them together, okay? So there's that bridge there. We can isolate this view to see what exactly we're getting, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is so I don't have to sit here and bridge all this stuff together. I'm going to detach these components and sever the link between this guy now, okay? And I'm gonna grab this shape here. Let's move my pivot over here to this side. So I basically made that connection there, okay? Now I'm going to duplicate this guy again. Let's freeze my transforms and delete my history. Let's make that duplication again and just snap them over here to this shape. Now if I hit Shift D, it's just gonna keep that thing happening. It's gonna remember that transform and keep on moving it. Okay, I like what's happening here. I think that's enough. Let's just do one more for the sake of everything. Grab everything together, combine it. Let's grab some vertices and just merge vertices. Those things should be snapped in the right spot. Let's see what we get here. If you put things in 3 mode, it oftentimes tells you where things are not snapped together. So it looks like we're doing the right thing here. Excellent. Okay, now this is exactly the way that I want this. I went a little bit too far. That's okay. We could just pull this guy back. Just move you back a little bit. Let's, how much distance do we need on this thing, right? Give yourself some visuals there. Make sure you keep that reference up so you can see what exactly you need. Now what's actually happening is it looks like this, this barrel has a little bit of a slant to it. So let's grab like the soft select here, increase our selection, go all the way to the end there. And let's see if we can, no, it doesn't like that. Okay, new plan. Let's just slice this thing at an angle and see how that works. Try to line that. Let's go to orthographic view here. That way I got an even slice. There we go. This one is good. Where's my shape at? Okay, so I'm looking at this thing backwards. That's okay. We can still work with that. I'm just gonna try to line this guy up here with this line, and we can move that shape afterwards. Okay. Let's do the same thing over here. Nope, it's too far. Press G just to repeat that action. Let's do the bottom up. It's probably going to be a more accurate shape there. We want this guy to be like lined up perfectly with that, right? All right. Let me just delete this edge loop here. Delete the edge. Nope, I'm trying to grab this guy again. Do a little multi-cut here. There's so many ways to get this stuff done, okay? All right, now I did that slice there. It should be lined up perfectly on both sides now. Okay, and we got like a nice good curve back here too, I think. So I'm gonna grab this guy. Let's take the soft select off now, and let's just move him back here to where we think he needs to be. All right, and delete that. And now I've got things lined up the way that I want it to. If I add another edge loop, actually, you know what I should have done, let's do things this way. Let's slide this guy over here to where he belongs. I shouldn't have done that. And then we'll just extrude off of that shape. That's gonna be nicer, right? Extrude off. There, so now my topology is lined up the way that it needs to be. And this is still one shape here. Now if I delete these these faces in here, we have this geometry all lined up for us. Now we are going to have some geometry coming through here, most likely. So that's going to be a killer for us a little bit. Won't be too bad though. Combine the shapes together. Let's snap these vertices together. Probably should have pushed those in a little bit, actually. Let's try to line this up a little bit better here. Let's grab all of these vertices here. Just tug you up and pull you back a little bit. Pull you up. Bring you back. Combine those shapes together. And then I can merge those vertices to the center. No harm, no foul. We're not getting too much of a deviance between the shape there, which is awesome. All right. And now you come on in here, slap some edge loops in there. We can reduce this down in a minute, but we just want to get these guys lined up. Now you'll realize I'm not doing this on the other side right now. And that's on purpose because I could just mirror this thing. That may be especially useful if you UV this thing before you mirror it, then you have a mirrored UV that you can use on both sides and you can save UV space. Now, overlapping geometry is not overlapping UVs, sorry. That's not something that we want, okay? You're gonna want to, if I just grab these guys here and just do a merge vertice, it should snap them pretty close to each other. Just drag this guy out a little bit. There we go. I think that one's snapped on. Cool. Okay, so we got all this geometry here that's running through this. Let's diminish a little bit of that now, okay? So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab one of my edge loops here, press up, deselect the stuff that I don't want to be collapsed down, and I'm just going to collapse it. Collapse that edge. Same thing over here. Deselect this, collapse it down, collapse edge, collapse edge. And it's just selecting everything in that line and just collapsing it all down. And once again, if you press the G key, it's simply going to repeat your last action that you did. All right, good to go. And if I wanted to reduce it down even more, I probably could. We could do something like this over here. Yeah, that's enough right there, I think. It's nice to have a little bit of geometry in places. Cool. So we've reduced this thing down. Deleting my history. Now we do have this connection, this little piece up here in the front too. It's doing something slightly different though. So, you know, if you're going for that exact model, you may need to do some extra work on that. Shouldn't be too bad though. You can simply just duplicate this shape, move it to the front, and kind of make that little deviation yourself, right? So shouldn't be too hard on that one. Make sure you soften all your edges out. Now you're probably going to get some softening errors in here. So it may also benefit you to bevel some of these shapes before you go flinging them together. So that was a mistake that I made. Let's see if we can correct this. Because those are some hard edges. We don't really want all those hard edges there. So let's see if we can add some geometry but keep it contained. I wonder if we can do that. Let me try extruding those faces in, and I'm simply going to hit offset. We'll play with thickness too, maybe thickness. There, so that may add a little bit of a bevel there for us. Maybe try pulling it out a little bit. Scaling it, you know, just kind of play with it. That's not working. Let's try this again. I think thickness is what I wanted to start off with there. Okay. Not too bad. Let's try scaling you down and just pushing you in a little bit now. And that's going to cause a little bit of a bevel on that 90-degree curve there. Whoops, I think I need to scale these guys a little bit more. Let's scale them downwards now. Okay, let's see what this looks like. All right, not too bad. It's a little bit of work there. So we've successfully put little tiny bevels in there to make sure that we're not getting any softening errors, okay? This kind of stuff right here is kind of weak. So that's the stuff that we want. We don't want it softening all this out here. We want it to be having, you know, you can have a little bit of errors inside the edge that won't really conflict with anything. What's important is that this is going to be a normal map on your model. I hope I did this the right way. Because I thought the teeth were supposed to be the opposite direction, so you got some grip. You got some grip when you pull back. I'm not quite certain anymore. It's really, see there, yeah, there it is. I did do it the wrong way. This one back here is kind of deceiving, but this one's what you're truly modeling, and you're gonna want to put those triangles in the other way. Sound good? Exactly. Use my mistakes. Let it fuel your anger and rage. I could put a holding edge in here too to hold those shapes. Ooh, that's not good. So whatever's happening there is not good, but the rest of this is doing some good stuff though. Yeah, that's generally the model that most people go for, so I'm glad that we're doing that right here. Hold this shape too. I'm not sure why this guy's happening. Let's try a holding edge over here. You guys can get some of these holding edges in here to maybe work for you. Always make sure that you're modeling with some kind of blend on, some kind of blend or fong, so you can see what that surface is really doing. You know, we're getting some mild stretching here, so that's stuff that you probably want to try to avoid. I might be grabbing and throwing my edge loops in the wrong way. You know, what's happening here isn't too bad. Maybe if I just put like an edge loop in the middle of some of these areas, it'll hold the shape. Yeah. Like that there is probably enough. We don't need to go too crazy with a lot of that. And truthfully, I think it's just yeah, can't really do. I mean, I don't really want to do, what does this do? You kind of just have to play around with this stuff, really. That makes that edge harder. So, you know what, that might work. Because these are kind of being treated like extrusions, so you may be able to go through and just kind of slap some holding edges in there. But it's still keeping your stuff contained to that tighter area. Interesting things happening, right? And you may want to take advantage of smooth proxy as well. Smooth proxy will let you see that smoothing happening in real time. If you're not familiar with smooth proxy, let me show you what it does. So this is my original model before I smooth it out. But I can come over here to create, or no, it's a mesh smooth proxy, subdivision proxy, okay? So if I click on that, I'm going to get this duplicated model. This is my original, okay? And this is my smooth proxy. So this is what I'm working with here. You will see when I'm in, no, face. When I move part of my model here, it influences the other part. So you can see what your model looks like in 3 mode over there with actual geometry and see how your model's influencing it. Okay, and then once this is all said and done, you know, you'll have to look at your smooth proxy settings. You want to make sure that you're, you know, I think you probably want the attribute editor to look at the materials and stuff to make sure, you know, but it tells you how many exponent levels it is. Yeah, it is. It's an instance, divisions per edge and everything. So you can set that all up in the proxy options here. You can make the other material like see-through, transparent, all that. Once you're done modeling this shape, you can simply delete the history on it, and this guy stays here. And that's kind of what happens. And then this is basically your smooth model. You don't even have to smooth it anymore. Okay? But you know, so if I just deleted my history on this guy, and now if I move this stuff around, it doesn't mess with that other shape. But yeah, it's a nice little instance for you. Let's move this guy back where he belongs. Interesting. And you can definitely use some floating geometry for some of your screws here. I'll run through that with Anthony here. It sounds like a good, you know, time to move over to that. But I encourage you guys to work with, you know, additive and subtractive modeling. it's pretty important that you understand how to put shapes together. Try to attack the shapes that are harder to understand. Okay, try to find those harder shapes. Like these shapes are interesting, but I would say the other side of the pistol, where we have this shape coming out for the actual ejection chamber, that's another hard shape. So you're probably going to want to, start working on that as soon as possible. But consider it. You'll realize here that it's separated from the rest of these shapes. So split your pistol barrel up into multiple shapes. No problem, no problem. And I already kind of made this for Anthony yesterday. But yeah, I mean, if you split your model up into shapes, then you can kind of understand, give it little segments where you can do some modeling.